Much of the NBA offseason includes speculating what moves are going to be made by teams and which teams will improve enough to become contenders. It is predicting how teams that performed well last season will carry that same momentum into the upcoming campaign. Analysts will share their thoughts on players and how they expect those players to perform during the season. It all makes for an exciting summer that keeps fans interested in the game. However, while there are still moves to be made, most of the league is beginning to take shape. We are beginning to get an idea on who the top teams will be in the 2021-2022 season. Obviously, there are always going to be Cinderella teams that come out of nowhere and shock the world, and there are also going to be organizations that underperform their high expectations. Taking all of that into account, it is not only a fun process, but also an informative one to look at the top teams in the league before the season begins. While they did indeed have the Milwaukee Bucks listed at number 1. However, where was that team that played the Bucks in the championship ranked? The Phoenix Suns had a ranking of 14th overall. So this does not mean that the website was wrong for those rankings, rather the Suns just simply outperformed their expectations. Now all of this leads us to the reason for today's video. We are going to be listing our selections for the top 6 teams heading into the regular season. These are early rankings and could be subject to change, but for the most part, we are confident that these selections will hold true going forward, barring some out-of-the-blue league-changing trades. One last caveat before we get into our rankings. These selections are based on a number of things. We looked into the team's title odds, overall roster construction, last year's standings, player predictions, and more. And we understand that some of our viewers will disagree with some of our choices, and hey, that's okay. In fact, we hope this leads to a lively discussion and quality debate in the comments section. And we would love to hear who your top 6 teams are heading into the season as well. So without further ado, here are our 6 best teams heading into the 2021-2022 regular season. Number 6, Miami Heat. Now this was a close one between the Philadelphia 76ers and the Miami Heat. We decided to go with the Heat because Philly is still dealing with their Ben Simmons drama and nobody is really sure if he will remain with the team this season. While Miami could not duplicate their same success last year that they had during the bubble season in 2019-2020, they did make some significant improvements this offseason and are looking like one of the best teams in the East going into the year. The addition of Kyle Lowry not only gives them a star point guard, but will also help take pressure off of Jimmy Butler to not be the only main ball handling star. Bam Adebayo completes the big 3, and the Heat have enough depth around those players to make for a quality overall roster. Their 2022 title odds sit at plus 2,500, but this is also a mentally tough team that will not listen to outside criticism. Led by Butler in that department, the Heat also added 2 guys who do not care what anyone thinks in Markieff Morris and PJ Tucker. This will be a team with a chip on its shoulder and an edge which should lead to success this season. Number 5, Utah Jazz. The Jazz are never the flashiest team and they don't always receive much media attention, yet they continue to perform well in a very difficult Western Conference. Led by Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert, this team arguably has as much depth as any other roster in the NBA. Now, one note we need to make is how impressive it is that Gobert and Mitchell have stayed together and avoided a fallout after the pandemic season. If you remember, there was drama after Gobert touched all of the microphones following a press conference mocking the coronavirus. The result? He ended up testing positive for COVID, which led to an NBA shutdown, and Mitchell was reportedly frustrated after he also tested positive. The story seemed like it could lead to one of the stars asking for a trade and the Jazz falling apart. Instead, both players have worked through their issues and Utah looks poised for a potential title run this season. Getting back to the point about depth, Utah not only re-signed point guard Mike Conley this offseason, they also have Bojan Bogdanovic, Jordan Clarkson, Rudy Gay, Joe Ingles, and Hassan Whiteside, just to name a few players who complement the Gobert-Mitchell duo. The only reason this team is not ranked higher is because they do not quite feature the star power of some other teams, but the extent of talent up and down the roster should carry them deep into the playoffs. Number 4, the Phoenix Suns. The Suns are coming off a tremendous season. They shattered most experts' predictions and fell just 2 wins short of a truly miraculous season. Still, that playoff run will give them plenty of momentum heading into the 2021-2022 campaign. Chris Paul remains one of the most talented point guards and best leaders in the league. Devin Booker has established himself as a superstar, and DeAndre Ayton has the ability to be one of the best bigs in all of the NBA. Besides a few minor additions, the roster looks similar to last year's squad, and considering the team was 30 games over .500 and the Western Conference champions, it is understandable that they did not feel the need to make any huge deals. Cam Johnson and Landry Shamet will be valuable options off of the bench, and look for Michael Bridges to show improvements this year. Number 3, Los Angeles Lakers. The Lakers have an average of 31.8 years old on their roster this season. Some of their talent looks like an all-star team from 10 years ago, and they're also coming off of an injury-plagued and underwhelming campaign. Yet, with all of that said, this team is shaping up to be a legitimate title contender for the 2021-2022 season. The Lakers feature an astoundingly accomplished big three of LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and Russell Westbrook. Some analysts and fans alike have discredited Westbrook by saying he is not a good fit. However, he is originally from the LA area and figures to have motivation playing in a Laker uniform. He also brings an upgrade at point guard as well. Anthony Davis should continue to dominate in the post if he can stay healthy, and although LeBron will be 37 this year, it is never wise to doubt King James on a basketball court. The team is undoubtedly veteran-heavy, but players like Carmelo Anthony, Trevor Ariza, and Dwight Howard will still be able to contribute. The additions of Wayne Ellington and Malik Monk give LA necessary perimeter help, and they still figure to make one or two more moves to bolster their roster before opening night. Number 2, Milwaukee Bucks. The Bucks not only have one of the best players in all of the league in Giannis Antetokounmpo, they also display one of the NBA's deepest rosters as well. Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday were instrumental in last year's championship run and will look to continue to help Giannis lead the Bucks team. Giannis also may be more relaxed after winning the championship, which means he could be even better this year. Now that is a scary thought for the rest of the league. Other than the additions of Grayson Allen and Rodney Hood, this is a very similar club to last year, as Milwaukee pursues a second straight title. Barring a championship hangover, the Bucks should be able to continue their winning ways, even in an increasingly difficult Eastern Conference. Number 1, Brooklyn Nets. Speaking of that increasingly difficult East, the Brooklyn Nets are ranked as our number 1 team for the upcoming season. When you have Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan on your team, and neither of them are even considered part of your big three, you know you have a talented team. James Harden, Kevin Durant, and Kyrie Irving making up that aforementioned big three, and the Nets practically feature an all-star-esque lineup. It does take time to develop chemistry with other star players, and last year the Nets could not make it out of the East. However, the Nets figure to be even better in 2021-2022 since their stars will be more comfortable playing with one another, and they made some quality offseason additions including Patty Mills, James Johnson, and Brooklyn, well, they're the team to beat this season. There is no question that the 2021-2022 NBA season will be an exciting one. Can the Bucks hold off the emerging Nets? Will the Jazz be able to make it out of the West with that deep roster? Are the Lakers good enough to overcome their age issue? Can the Suns make it out of the West once again? There are all questions that are pumping us up for the upcoming year. Opening night can't come soon enough. So what do you think of our top 6 NBA rankings going into this season? Do you agree? What would you change? And before you go, remember to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below and hit that bell so you don't miss out on all of the great content that we've got coming.